Last summer, the Democratic National Convention was held in our own backyard in South Philadelphia. Without official DNC press credentials, Ben and I covered everything that happened beyond the security fence. Here's a look at those who were protesting the DNC. During the sweltering July heat, protesters from near and far came to protest the 2016 DNC. While the vast majority were Bernie Sanders supporters, their motives for supporting Bernie varied.
I'm here to support Bernie Sanders as the only person who will speak about the humanity of Palestinian people and their plight. I believe that peace is possible in Palestine, but only when Israel responds with restraint.
We need to revamp the whole system because it's all corrupt.
The entire Democratic Party?
Yes.
Financial equality, equal distribution, caring about the masses. I got to vote for him as my congressman and then as my senator.
Long before Bernie Sanders, I was a socialist. I believe we should take care of everyone. We're here to send them a message that if you do not nominate Bernie Sanders, that is the only acceptable apology, then we will exit your party.
And you cannot get elected in this country or most countries unless you have special interests on your side, lobbyists like Hillary has.
There are people here protesting fracking, protesting Donald Trump, protesting everything that Bernie Sanders is against.
One of the largest groups protesting was Democracy Spring.
We're demanding that the Democrats abolish superdelegates. We're demanding that they overturn Citizens United. We're demanding that they ensure voting rights for all people. And we want to make sure that there are publicly funded elections so the Democratic Party can live up to their name. And until they do that, we are going to build a mass movement, and we are a peaceful movement, Democracy Spring, but we are going to show them that people power is more powerful than any power in this country.
Other groups included Black Lives Matter and the Westboro Baptist Church.
It's not a protest, we're proselytizing. Protesting is political. This has to do with Jesus Christ, not really that much about politics. We come here because of the crowds that event draws.
In reporting for Harriton High School Television, I am Ricky Reports.
A political party's national convention is where, every 4 years, delegates who are elected on primary election days meet to vote on who will be their party's nominee for that year. It's usually a time where a party can unite behind a presidential candidate. I spoke with many delegates before and during the convention. Here is some of what they told me. This summer I had a chance to interview several delegates from, among other states, Florida, Iowa, and California. Our conversation generally started with Hillary Clinton, the DNC, and the WikiLeaks scandal.
I'm very disgusted, and I'm very disappointed.
They have been sort of colluding against Bernie from the start.
Literally a vast right-wing conspiracy.
They've been listening to 30 years of propaganda and lies that's been put out by the other side.
Hillary Clinton has an unprecedented record, and she's got the most experience.
Hillary is pretty much the definition of establishment politics.
Another common topic was the most important issues that the Democratic Party faces.
I think the most important issue is healthcare.
Healthcare.
Unity.
We are so divided.
Income inequality. It's the big umbrella.
I really think that it's, income inequality.
The last major topic we discussed was voting for a third-party candidate.
I don't want Donald Trump for president.
Which is a greater moral dilemma, voting for Hillary Clinton or being complicit in the creation and coming about of a Donald Trump presidency.
I'm not going to throw my vote away. After this week, I will probably vote for Hillary Clinton.
During the DNC, protesters gathered to protest everything from a corrupt system to a carbon-based economy. As we hinted a moment ago, contrary to what you might think, it wasn't conservatives who protested the DNC. It was for the most part more extreme liberals, many of whom supported Bernie Sanders.
We spent the week filming the protests. Before we show part 1 of the mini-documentary, we want to mention that these protests were going on in triple-digit heat. We also want to mention that we spent over 20 hours filming the protests, so this is extremely condensed.
In the shadow of City Hall, we first met protesters holding a small rally.
We are the change that we want to see.
There is no leadership here. It's just various people come up and give speeches about Bernie Sanders.
Following the rally, protesters, which had grown exponentially in size, marched down to
Here, you want me to do... these are officials at the DNC walking in.
I know, they're already going in over there. We're going to the heart of it. Walking to the convention to vote for Bernie Sanders. They're trying to tell everyone to vote for Bernie.
The protesters here are demanding entry here, it looks like.
Police had to stop bikes.
Is that for civil rights? Others are still blocking it with their bikes.
With the heat wave, yeah.
Yeah, of course they said.
They are actually getting arrested.
Step onto the sidewalk!
They just said they want to be arrested and they're going to stand onto the sidewalk. These people want to be arrested.
If you want to get arrested, stand on the sidewalk! Stand up!
Police detaining 50 protesters, which they
I actually stopped the guy telling him they're claiming.
On day 2 of the DNC, in the hours before the official roll call vote, protesters were again out in force in a last-ditch effort to convince superdelegates not to vote for Hillary.
Nominate Sanders! Nominate Sanders!
As we speak, the roll call is taking place.
We are right with the protesters as they listen to the roll call vote. Protesters had moved in front of a jumbotron by the time that Hillary had officially received enough votes to win the nomination. They listened as their leader spoke at the conclusion of the roll call vote.
All votes cast by delegates be reflected in the official record.
Yes!
And I move that Hillary Clinton be selected as the nominee of the Democratic Party.
With Bernie's campaign officially over, Bernie or bust supporters were left with no other choice other than to bust.
Welcome to Philadelphia, where obviously our democracy is being fought.
Now angrier than ever, protesters calling for a revolution once again demanded entrance to the DNC next to AT&T station.
You call yourself police? Go arrest the real criminals! You're in there!
The first protester to be arrested was the Green Party's 2012 vice presidential pick, Sherry Honkala. The Green Party supporter told the crowd that Sherry was only bringing sandwiches to hungry Bernie delegates who had left the convention in protest.
She was given the okay to deliver the food, and then they asked her to leave, and that's when she sat down out of protest.
Following this, protesters did leave the station area, only to return minutes later, united, arms linked together. Then, in one of the most surprising things that we saw all week, the police began to retreat back behind the security fence. Protesters then decided they weren't going to let the police close the gate. With the gate closed, protesters continued to yell and taunt police through the fence. According to a police report, one protester went as far as to grab a police officer through the fence. Police responded using pepper spray on the protester. In the ensuing chaos, our video of the incident was lost. This is video we found online. The majority of the protesters weren't deterred as we were by the pepper spray. One by one, protesters then jumped the fence, entering the restricted area, in full knowledge that they would soon be arrested.
God bless you!
Reporting from a finally calm AT&T station, I am Ricky Reports. There were some scary moments there, definitely. You can see in these images just how close we got to the center of those dramatic moments.
Ricky likes to claim that this photo proves he was nearly pepper sprayed.
I ran so fast when I felt the sting in my eye that it knocked the SD card out of my camera.
Many DNC protesters would turn to third-party candidates on days 3 and 4 of the convention. Here's part 2 of our mini-doc on the protests.
Ricky Reports here in the center of a Democracy Spring protest here outside the 2016 Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. That's what we thought was going on anyway. As it turned out, the protest we were at was actually a distraction protest by Democracy Spring, who were trying to draw police away from their protest that had infiltrated the restricted area of the DNC.
They sat down together, linking arms. They deployed a 75-foot banner that read, "One person, one vote, Democracy Spring."
We actually thought the protests were dying down on day 3 of the convention. Our belief in a calm night was shattered, however, when protesters threw a casket with the words DNC on it over the security fence.
Election fraud! Election fraud!
The protests were nonviolent until around 11 p.m. while Obama spoke inside the convention. A small group of anarchists wearing black masks and helmets, were able to open up a gate in the fence using bolt cutters. This led to panic as anarchists surged forward into police lines where they were swiftly arrested. The vast majority of protesters, though, ran the other way, some with their hands in the air indicating that they were being nonviolent. We found ourselves in a secure position atop a barricade and watched as police inundated the area.
The police have moved in front of the fence and have created a new fence right here. They're using their bikes as barricades between the protesters, the fence, and them.
The majority of protesters made it known that they did not want to be associated with the anarchists. The division between the majority Bernie supporters and the more extreme activists spilled over to day 4 of the DNC, which can only be described as a mess, as extremists and Bernie supporters argued. On one side, there are the extremists.
We must take our freedom. We must let them know that we will not stand. We will not sit idly by while they rape this earth, while they kill our people, while they profit off of the bloodshed of innocent civilians around the world. Burning a flag is not violence. You cannot commit violence against inanimate objects.
On the other side, there were Bernie supporters. They repeatedly tried to stop extremists from making things worse, as anarchists had done the day before.
You're gonna put us in danger! Stop it! You're gonna get us caught in the middle of your agenda, and it's not right! We're gonna stand here, in between the pushers and the fence and the police, because we believe in peace!
Don't take my flag, my friend. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna stand up there and I'm gonna take the gas.
But overall, what we took away was that many protesters had decided to leave the Democratic Party and join the Green Party or even vote for Donald Trump. They wanted anyone but Hillary to be the next president. After a week of protesting in near 100-degree heat, rain showers finally brought a calm to protests, which were finally washing out.
One final time in front of the protests outside the Wells Fargo Center in South Philadelphia, home of the 2016 Democratic National Convention, I am Ricky Reports.
We showed a little bit of Fox Business News' coverage there. They were the only major news network to actually cover the protests in-depth live. In fact, CNN actually interrupted a report on the protesters to show a Boys to Men performance. Speaking of live news coverage, we showed up on a few times on live TV. Here's me on Morning Joe, where I met Ed Brendel and Jim Kenney and Chuck Todd. I was talking to the cameraman from Fox Business News and showed them that I could watch their live coverage from my phone. They apparently thought this was really cool, and according to the cameraman, they show this image, multiple times the next day on TV. Enough about us. During the DNC protest, we interviewed a few celebrities, including Geraldo Rivera and Saturday Night Live's Michael Che.
It really, in both parties, we've seen a lot over the past 2 years, weakening of the actual parties themselves as new candidates and new ideas in the party come into vote. What can you attribute this sudden change in America thinking differently and voting for different candidates for?
Well, that's an excellent question. I think that Trump clearly has taken over the Republican Party and smashed the existing status quo. And I think that's probably a good thing, although it's scary to some. Change is always unsettling. On the Democratic side, I think that Hillary managed to squeak it out, but what is becoming clear is that the only way the establishment held on the Democratic side was they cheated. So I think change is definitely in the air.
Okay, not sure how this happened, but I, Ricky Reports, am here with Michael Che, the host of Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live. Michael, what are you doing here in FDR Park where the protests are going on here at the Democratic National Convention?
What protests?
Something over there.
I'm here to see the Eagles. What school is this for?
Harriton High School of Lower Merion.
Well, oh, is that where Kobe went?
He went to the other school in the district.
Oh, okay. This is for like guys that don't play basketball. Who are you here in support of?
Well, as a reporter,
how did I start out interviewing you?
Okay. Well, as a reporter from my high school TV station, it's important that I stay fair, unbiased, and all of that.
That's a Trump vote if I ever heard one.
A number of Bernie or bust protesters we talked to at the DNC said that they planned not to vote for Hillary, but instead for Donald Trump. Here's what they told us.
A lot of people that I've talked to that are Trump supporters, we leave the candidates aside, we leave names aside and just talk about the issues. we're in agreement on a lot of major issues in this country. There are a couple that we disagree on, but for the most part, we understand left or right. It's irrelevant at this point. We need to disrupt the establishment. We need to put the power back in the hands of the people.
In my opinion, Trump is possibly better than Hillary. To me, Hillary is the bigger criminal. Trump, you know, his stuff is low level. Her stuff is deep, far and wide. It spans across continents.
Do you think that Hillary is worse than Donald Trump?
I do.
In what ways?
She's a liar. She's self-involved. She doesn't care about anybody else except for herself.
Do you worry that votes for Jill Stein and Gary Johnson are going to be votes for Donald Trump?
No. It's possible, but at least Hillary won't be in there, because Hillary should be in jail.
I'm not Bernie or Bus. I'm going to vote for Trump. I'm a Hispanic. I am Hispanic. He's going to throw me over a wall. But guess what? I am a one-issue voter. Free and fair elections. Donald Trump actually got the votes.
Who's worse, Trump or Hillary?
Hillary. Trump is a buffoon. He's a narcissistic sociopath. He does not have the connections that Hillary has, and all the crap that he's talking about doing, he can't do. Hillary, on the other hand, is connected. She's a warmonger, she's a one-percenter, and she will destroy this country. Trump will be embarrassed, but Hillary, we will all die.
One of the more interesting rallies we covered was a rally by Black Men for Bernie Sanders. Here's Ben with more.
Ben Feldman here outside City Hall, Philadelphia, where there's a large protest going on. Black Men for Bernie Sanders. Now, of course, this movement comes from, Bernie Sanders' protests during the 1964 equal rights for all races, when he was protesting segregation. And as you can see, there's a large contingent of Bernie supporters here, of the Black Men for Bernie Sanders group. They're all very excited during this process. For most of them, I think they wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton in the general election. There's, of course, the scandal, Hillary Clinton saying the super predator line. So as you can imagine, it's a very disaffected group that we're seeing.
Through all the madness that was the convention, we found time to talk to a man playing his bagpipes. Here's his story.
I have been here all week. I've been marching with Black Lives Matter. I've been marching with, March for Bernie, Occupy movement, and I think it helps keep spirit high, along with the chanting. I think every revolution and every march needs a good set of bagpipes.